Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And I gotta say, tonight's episode of NXT, it was good. You know, I enjoyed it. The majority of it was devoted to the Shinsuke Nakamura versus Finn Balor match, which, admittedly, while I don't think it necessarily lived up to the hype, certainly didn't disappoint at the same time. And, a few other things to talk about that I'm not necessarily a fan of or would have liked, but overall, I give this episode of NXT a thumbs up. Partner, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I'd give it thumbs middle. I feel like the match itself underwhelmed to the degree that, you know, they were kind of building it up as a match of the year, dream match kind of thing, and I don't even think that it's Nakamura's best match in NXT, despite the fact that he's only had like 5 so far. I think that Sami Zayn, that match was better, and quite frankly, I'll even go as far as to say his match with Dillinger was more entertaining overall.
Oh, wow. I will say this, I will wholeheartedly sign on to Sami having a better match than Nakamura.
I know the match with Dillinger was a lot shorter, but I think that played to its benefit because this match felt like it was too long.
Okay, well, we'll unpack that more when we get to the actual match, but I will say this preemptively. I do think Sami Zayn still holds the title of having Nakamura's best match. And, like, this
I
is
agree
coming
with
from a
that.
guy.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, and this is coming from a guy people remember that, like, I respect Sami wholeheartedly, but in all sincerity, like, I'm not a big fan of his, and yet I still feel like that match was an absolute barn burner. This, you know, it's funny that you felt like it went on too long. I felt like it had a good length, all things considered, because I think that
if Sami versus Shinsuke Nakamura was a barn burner, this match was a nice little kindling that was started in the middle of the barn that didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, you know, it's a shame because I liked what both guys did. But again, we'll save that for the actual match. Let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And boy, is this segment necessary because I think you and I both have a Heat of the Night that we share.
Yes, we do.
Oh, the over-evaluation of Rhyno to NXT.
Does anybody
don't get it.
really think that Rhyno is as good as he's being portrayed or that he's been portrayed in the NXT past?
And see, that's the thing. Like, I want to make perfectly clear on my end, and I'm assuming I speak for you too, partner. It's not that we think Rhyno is a waste necessarily. Like, we were excited about the prospect of him working with Buddy Murphy. Like, that's the thing. I don't know if this is using the term correctly, but I just feel like Rhino's more of a utility player. Like, we use his value to put other guys over that need to be elevated. You don't put a guy like Rhyno in the main of that pit. That's ludicrous to me. Absolutely.
Even
ludicrous.
if it is just a TV feud, you could have given that to Dillinger or someone else who needs elevated.
Yeah, we haven't heard.
You're not going to elevate Samoa Joe by having him beat Rhyno. That's expected.
Yeah, and, like, that's another thing. Since you've mentioned Ty Dillinger, like, a few times now, one in the context of Balor Nakamura, and now with this whole segment here that Joe had, because Rhyno interrupted Joe. That's what we're getting at. You know, Dillinger's a guy we haven't seen since that loss to Oney Lorcan. If he's really put himself together or what's going on there. I don't know if they're intentionally withholding him for something or what.
And ecstasy, before you even go there, I am well aware of the fact that it would make no sense for Ty Dillinger coming off of a bunch of losses to face the world champion. What I'm saying is they could have built him up properly and had him in a TV feud with Joe before we actually get into whatever Joe's going to be doing at TakeOver if they really wanted to have Joe do something to pass the time rather than this Rhyno crap.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, dude. I don't understand where it comes from where it's like, oh, Rhyno. And really narratively... And
it's not even a dream feud, and even if it was, these guys have already feuded before, haven't they?
I believe they have. I mean, they've certainly crossed paths.
I feel like I want to say last fall, these guys were feuding.
Yeah, I think they got caught up in the same mix as, because I know Kevin Owens and Finn Balor were doing stuff at the same time that Joe and Rhyno were doing stuff, and I do remember that tag match that the 4 guys had.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I have no interest in seeing this match. I was actually far more excited for the prospect of Rhyno versus Buddy Murphy. Are we even getting that now? I have to legitimately ask the question. Like, I'm going to be truthful. The only way I'll give this match, which, I mean, I got to be fair and see it before, anything else. but I can't see myself being so enthused about the match unless Buddy Murphy ties into the finish somehow. Like maybe he comes out and distracts Rhyno or beats him down after the match.
I'm going to go ahead and say that's not going to happen.
And you're right, it's not. Which is a shame because, again, you and I were really excited about the prospect of that feud, and I think that was just pure conjecture at this point. And us getting
I think that was just kind of them saving Buddy Murphy from the chaos because he's the only one that they're interested in protecting even a little.
Exactly, which I can't wait for that follow-up either. So we got Murphy and Dillinger now. Like, I'm wondering what these guys are going to do. And yet, yeah.
It's like freaking ROH, dude. They keep on just deciding to push all the wrong people when they have legitimately talented potential superstars on their roster.
And that's such a shame because I can't tell you both how much I groaned and how underwhelmed I felt when Rhyno was the one who made an interruption. Because you knew somebody was going to interrupt. And honestly,
I didn't know if anyone was going to interrupt. I mean, I was thinking like maybe the way that this segment ended would be with the first entrance to the Balor Nakamura match.
See, and with the way Joe was speaking, look, and I dare anybody to start, like, somebody's going to answer the call. I'm disappointed that it was Rhyno that answered the call, because honestly, what I thought was going to happen, I thought William Regal was going to come out, and he was going to formally make Nakamura Balor a number one contendership match to really make Joe start to sweat a little bit. But I think they just trusted us to already kind of make that assumption. But yeah, you could have really had anybody. Hell, for his little winning streak, I would have been more excited about Andrade Cien Almas answering and being like, look, I didn't come here to just stand idly by. I'm challenging you. He's a babyface. He's got the little streak going. Why not do that even if Joe did murder him? Just Rhyno is so underwhelming. And yeah, we get this match next week. So that's a thing. And that's all
yes,
I really
it is. And I have another nitpick on top of that.
Okay.
There was one match on this show, and we had two separate hype videos during the show before the match happened that we've already seen before to try and build up to the match.
Right.
It's overkill. I'm sorry. Like, I understand wanting to hype up a match, but at this point, you're getting masturbatory.
Yeah, like, if you really wanted to build up hype, and I think they kind of did this, maybe you just show, like, these guys just kind of, like, making that long walk, you know what I mean? Like, making that entrance. Like, that would be a way if you want to build hype. But video packages that we've already seen, I agree with you. It's oversaturation, and really, to me, I think it kind of hurts the match in a way because I think you kind of sour on it before it even happens. At least I kind of did. And I'm just like, okay, let's do this already. Let's get the show on the road. And that's not how you should feel about a match with guys of this caliber competing against each other. You shouldn't be like, okay, hurry it along. You should just, really be wanting it and salivating over it. And yeah, I think they kind of hurt themselves here with all the over promotion.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it comes down to.
All right, is there anything else you wanted to address on the table in this segment?
Nope, that's everything. I mean, it's funny because there were literally like 4 things that happened tonight, and we just complained about 3 of them and talked about how the 4th one was underwhelming. So there you go, NXT.
Yeah, so let us get right into our NXT review, what's left of it. Yeah, Joe did cut an amazing promo here, dude. Can I just say, and I don't want to jump the gun, but I think Joe was the star of the show, and that's crazy given the two, like,
and
the match that we did
To
get.
give credit where it's due, he is the champion. So the fact that he was the best part of the show and the fact that he's probably the best thing going in NXT, who's actually getting a proper push, is the champion, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, props to everyone involved in that decision being made happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I just love the imagery he was invoking with his language, sitting upon a throne, and if you try and reach for my crown, I'll leave you a broken heap on top of the bodies on which the throne sits. And it's just great. It's fiery.
Sometimes when Joe cuts these promos, it feels almost poetic,
Definitely.
There's a poetic element to heel Joe's promos.
And can I say, too, because I feel like I made a similar point about, although albeit in a very different way, Mil Muertes in our Lucha Underground review. Like, I think every wrestling fan, when they look at somebody, they got some kind of a bias, and I know I certainly do. Like, this is not me exempting myself. And I think when you look at a guy like Joe and you hand him a microphone, you're probably thinking, oh, is he going to yell a lot about how he's going to rip heads off? But, like, he has such great imagery, especially in a promo like this. It goes far beyond the typical, and in Newark, New Jersey, I'm going to kick your ass and I'm going to rip your head clean off its shoulders, and that's, that's whatever. But Joe just takes it to another level because he is the champion. I'm loving his work right now, dude. He is such a good heel. I hope he comes to the main roster as a heel. I really do, because this is such great work.
Yeah, Brody. Yeah, I have kind of gotten vibes that he might end up coming up to the main roster as a face. And if we're being completely honest, if he does end up showing up on SmackDown, I do feel like he will be cheered, at least at first. So if you kind of want to do with him on the main roster what you did with him in NXT, where he shows up beloved and as a good guy, and eventually the true Joe comes out and he turns heel, I'd be okay with that too.
That's acceptable to me. That's entirely acceptable to me. Look, get him there, get the initial excitement of him being there out of everybody's system, have him work like maybe one or two babyface programs, but then the true Joe comes out, because his work, his bread and butter, his money, really comes with him being a heel. And then it all gets wasted because Rhyno's music hits, and he's like, well, I'm stepping up, I'll go through you, he tells Joe. And Joe walks up, he says, you don't work me, don't work my time, I work your time. I do things on my terms. So that was that segment, and that was pretty much it. Do you have anything you want to add?
I don't have anything I want to add other than just really re-emphasizing Samoa Joe as champion is not only the best thing going in NXT right now, I think probably, but it's also something that we should have been getting since December, because he should have beaten Balor for the title at London.
Oh my God, yeah.
So, and it's not even hindsight booking either, because I was saying that going into London.
I think we both were, dude.
Yeah, well, we were. You're absolutely right. We were.
Yeah, and I just feel like we were looking at his momentum and we're like, capitalized, especially because it's
not like Balor. He was cutting great promos back then, too.
He was cutting great promos back then, and if you want to look at the Balor side of the argument, he would hardly be getting shirked. He already had a lengthy run at that point.
Yep. He won the title in July, so to lose it in December, that's still a 5-month reign.
Yeah, I mean, that's no joke. So, with that segment, let's move on. Like you said, we got hype packages, and then...
Out the ass.
Hype packages. Then we got entrances. And you know what, Ashton? I want you to have the floor first. I want you to give your personal breakdown, because we're both underwhelmed by it, but maybe from different perspectives. I don't know.
Okay.
What did you think of Nakamura?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It was an amazing match, and I'm not going to ever try and deny that. But to me, the fact that this wasn't a full-blown match of the year candidate makes it underwhelming, because of the ridiculous amount of hype they put into this match.
Exactly.
They've been building to this match multiple times per show on every single show for the last month. This should have been the best NXT TV match since the last time we had the NXT title defended on an episode of TV.
And I agree with you.
It was a really good match, but it didn't feel special beyond the things that NXT can do to force it to feel special, like the in-ring announcements and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to an earlier sentiment that you and I kind of touched upon. You really hurt yourself with all this over promotion, because had they even done, and really, I mean, like, even spaced it out, because you had all this time that you were planning on doing it anyway. If you had done the video packages one week, and honestly, I kind of would have reverse engineered it. I would have done the video packages one week, and then I would have given it a wide berth, to breathe and all that shit. And then maybe a week before, I would have done the sit-down interviews. Really create that intimate feel, and stuff like that. And then you would have had the match. Those are the only two things I would have done. And I wouldn't have repeated the video packages
I also want to kind of point out that this show specifically really exposed NXT's inability to really manipulate the way that they show their commercials in a way that benefits their TV product.
Yeah.
Because there were commercials in the middle of this match that I thought really hurt the momentum of the match itself. Like, maybe if we had watched this match live, it would have been awesome, just like what I said about the Bliss Carmella match, but the commercials really hurt it, I think.
And you know what the shame of that is I felt like they were starting out on a good note with that, because if you notice when entrances were made, I think that's when their first commercial was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, they're learning, right? And then they do exactly what you said. Middle of the match, another commercial. And I agree with you. Like, it hurts the flow if you're going to tell a story, which to the credit of these guys, and that's the thing too, let it be known, like, this match, if anything, if it accomplished anything positive, made me even more excited about Finn Balor to the main roster, because these two guys did excellent work, and they're not in charge of how promotion goes, and they're not in charge when commercials come. So these guys did their job. They did what they're made to do. They wrestled, and they wrestled a hell of a match.
Yeah.
It's just the atmosphere that this match found itself in wasn't the most conducive. And that's a shame, because when you look at the match on its own merits, when you isolate it from the promotion and all that other stuff, this is a quality match. Like, I like the psychology of Balor just relentlessly targeting the knee of Shinsuke, and even going for submissions. I think more submissions than we've ever seen out of Finn Balor.
Right, and also to kind of up the ante, you mentioned him going after after Nakamura's knee. Nakamura's selling of the knee was A+ level amazing.
Oh my God, completely agree. It's like I was telling you in conversation, because you and I were kind of decompressing and we were going over how we felt. I said to you, psychology is only as good as the recipient makes it. And Nakamura, this just proves to everybody, as if anybody didn't already know it, I think it's common knowledge, that he's a next level player, because he made his pain and his agony seem like the most excruciating experience.
Yep.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Next level. And another thing that was next level, I really enjoyed the body language from both of these guys. When Shinsuke kicked out of the reverse 1916, and Finn's face, like, are you fucking... And then he, like, backs away into the corner. Like, he just cannot believe that happened. I feel like that would have been a more appropriate reaction, admittedly, if he kicked out of the coup de grace, but I still loved it nonetheless, because it's like, oh man, Shinsuke's not fucking around. Like, you know, what do I gotta do here? What do I gotta pull out?
I honestly feel like for a match like this, I almost would have preferred it if Balor hadn't hit his finisher in the entire match. Just to kind of leave that opening. Like, if he did, maybe he would have won.
Right.
But he did, and Nakamura kicked out of it, and that completely threw any and all atmosphere out the window, because, like, as soon as that happened, you knew Nakamura was winning.
Right.
And, like, we already felt like we knew Nakamura was winning coming into this match, but after that, it was a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, and he does, you know, with the knee, as you said on TWitWoW. So, you know, Nakamura does prevail. I mean, it was a great match, though, from psychology and everything else. But I will say, and now this is going to be what I told you, Ashton, in conversation. I'm going to reiterate it here. It's the pickiest of nits. I own up to that. Post-match, these guys are doing, you know, the obligatory, oh, you know, I love you too, you know, the respect. And it's great because, you know, crowds cheering. They loved what they got, which is great for them, obviously. Huge show of respect. I would have loved, given Joe's sentiments at the start of the show, like, nobody's going to step up to my throne, and if you even try to, I'm going to break you and leave you on the heap of bodies that made it stand to begin with. If he would have came out, because both those guys were exhausted, Nakamura's knee went to shit, Balor probably doesn't know where he is after all those knees to the head, and he would have laid waste to both of them. And even if not both of them, Nakamura was alone in that ring for a good minute to 2 minutes. I feel like Joe should have came out and really put him down, because Nakamura now is the presumptive #1 contender. I felt like that would have been great heel heat for Joe to come out and shit all over that parade, because every time we have a match of this magnitude, it's always the show of respect and the adulation from the crowd, and it always seems to go uninterrupted. With the exception maybe of Sami Zayn's NXT Championship win, because that facilitated the whole Kevin Owens-Sami Zayn angle.
Yeah.
That's the only one I can think of. But it still doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't.
And I just would have loved if Joe just marched down, man. Nakamura and Balor are looking at each other. They try to fight, but they're so exhausted, and Joe lays waste to both of them. Or again, if you don't want to give me that much, you could have at least given me, to start the hype for either a future television episode of NXT or even Brooklyn, which I kind of doubt, but we'll see, Nakamura versus Joe. and just have Joe lay his ass out. So again, I can't even hold it against the show because they never promised me it would happen. But given Joe's promo, I'm just thinking, man, how great would that have been? So yeah, I just had to get that off my chest because, like we've often said on other programs, I feel like it was a missed opportunity. So.
Yeah, man. I feel like that's about all I have to say about this match, though. It was, again, I can't emphasize enough that this was a really, really good match, and that the problem isn't that the match wasn't great. The problem is that the match wasn't legendary, and that they hyped it up like it would be.
I completely agree with you, dude. I think your assessment is 150% on point. I think if this match was in a vacuum, I think our disposition towards it would be a lot different.
Well, I mean, if it was in a vacuum and didn't have a commercial in the middle of it, yeah.
Yeah. Those fucking commercials. But yeah.
I mean, it's tough to have a vacuum when, literally a 3 or 4 minute time stamp in the middle of the match is advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. NXT is.
I think that, like, at this point for the WWE, it feels like the only reason people want matches to be on pay-per-views is so that we can get them without a commercial in the middle.
Exactly.
It's that bad. I mean, and the thing is, like, I guess that there's no real way to prove this, but I mean, I'm sure there is, but we don't have access to the resources that would be able to prove it. I highly doubt Lucha Underground is losing viewers when they go to commercial.
I wouldn't,
because the way that they build it, they only go to commercial when they kind of ensure you that something crazy awesome is going to happen on the other side. Like, oh, entrances just happened. You might want to be, sticking around here for this commercial because when we get back, this match is going to be underway and it's going to be a beast fight.
Yeah, dude. And like we've been talking about, and again, it's purely conjecture at this point, but if Lucha Underground in the future goes to 90 minutes, I'm going to be curious if they can hold on to how they do commercials. But even now in an hour, like, them and NXT are on an equal playing field. There's no reason why NXT can't do better. And I get that it's the WWE and they're a bigger platform and everything, but still, like, you can't turn the dial just a little bit down, just a little bit, Like, I don't know, dude. It's ridiculous because I feel like whenever Lucha Underground goes to commercial, my interest never wanes. If anything, they actually make commercials work for them because when they leave, I think my interest only becomes exacerbated. Like,
well, yeah, because a lot of the time when they leave, it's like some mind-boggling thing just happened and you just kind of have to sit there and stew on it.
Exactly.
Like, oh my God, that just, oh wow, what is going on right now? Like. It's like WWE and NXT both don't even really try and do anything like that.
No, never. And
it's
you
a
think,
shame because it works big time for Lucha Underground. Like, I feel like even if we weren't live reacting and kind of had that responsibility of making sure that we were on time when it came back, even if we weren't doing that, Lucha Underground has kind of become sort of that, like, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Mr. Robot. Like, there is no such thing as changing the channel when this is on. It's just too good.
Exactly. Where, I'll be honest, for as good as this match was, like, I'm just like, oh, this is just, an episode of NXT. I don't know, man.
The crazy thing, too, regarding Lucha Underground is, I don't know if you noticed the sponsors tonight, but they're getting kind of stacked from a sponsorship position. Like, Bud Light, there was some big stuff, extra gum, big stuff was sponsoring Lucha Underground in their ads tonight, and you don't ever see that with NXT. You might see stuff like that with the main roster and that product, but in NXT, the only real ads that you ever see are network ads and, like, Cricket Wireless.
Yeah.
And it seems like Cricket Wireless is just kind of like dipping their hand into every wrestling show ever.
I know, they are really pimping themselves out for everybody.
Let's just really think that wrestling fans will want a new wireless provider.
But I mean, yeah, I completely agree with all of your sentiments. I really have nothing to add, so I think we can move on. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right. High spots and low shots. I mean, really hard to pick, I guess. Or, I mean, really easy to pick, I guess, because of the scarcity of the show and stuff like that. So I guess my low shot will be Finn Balor. All of this hype and everything else, and you come out the losing end of this match. So it was a competitive effort, but he lost, so he's my low shot.
My low shot is Samoa Joe, because even though he is the champion, after tonight, you've got to think Nakamura is definitely in his rear view. And, I mean, not only Nakamura, but also he's got to put up with Rhyno for the next couple months. Ew.
Oh, Rhyno. All right.
Or like Rhyno.
So yeah, I mean, I like your choice as Joe as low shot. I think that's a good choice. Um, you know what? My high spot again, Nakamura. I mean, he won the match, and to your point about Joe being your low shot, presumptive number one contender right now. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I'm just going to sign on to that because there's really nobody else on this show that I could possibly make a high spot.
Exactly. No, I mean, this is one time. I mean, come on, man. So I don't blame you.
I mean, I got a little creative with the low shot, but no, not
You
the high
did.
spot.
You did. All right.
My high
With that
spot
said,
is Lucha Underground because it was so much better than this tonight.
I
That's
know,
even
right?
despite having a down episode. Holy shit.
I know, right? It's like down episode. It's irrelevant.
Oh, the shirt campaign's over, so it doesn't.
I know, right? I was even gonna say, yeah, you can't buy that shirt anymore, guys. Sorry. So I've just been
Hey,
so
thanks to the one person that bought it, though. That was pretty cool. It was good to see
Yeah,
that at least
whoever-
one of them sold. That was like, I mean, no offense to whoever bought it because it's obviously a cool looking shirt, and I would proudly wear that shirt if I could afford it. But that was like the lowest effort shirt I've ever made because I didn't even need to open up Photoshop. The Teespring shirt editor actually gives you an option to type text, so that was all I had to do.
Yeah, I mean, to the one person who bought a shirt, you kept my dream of being Johnny Marketing on life support.
No, yeah, I mean on life support, but that's about it because I said we had to sell more than one shirt and we only got one in.
I know. I really tried for what it's worth, but yeah.
Hey man, it's okay. Deluxe Man with his 20,000+ subs hasn't sold a single shirt yet either.
Hopefully that'll change in due time. But for now, do you have any closing remarks about NXT?
I don't, man. I think that's about all I have to say about this show. I mean, it's one of those things where NXT kind of felt like it wanted to put out like a pay-per-view like vibe this week too with their big time match, and next week probably is going to try and be like a pay-per-view as well, but Lucha Underground is just beating your ass right now, guys.
And speaking of Lucha Underground, I do have one final note.
Okay.
Guys, while my life as Johnny Marketing has come to an end, I'm still doing better than Mr. Cisco right now!
Oh my
Yeah!
Oh wow.
That evil laugh was legend status.
That was
So-
actually like an actual evil laugh. That wasn't like one of those forced like, oh, I'm gonna make fun of a cartoon villain kind of evil laugh. That was a legitimate evil laugh.
I love how this show is slowly corrupting me even more than I already am.
Stop it. If anything, you're corrupting it.
Yes.
My God.
I can't wait for this show to be produced for no other reason to hear those laughs back. Alright, guys, I'm so glad I got that out of my system. I love you all, and on that note, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question you have for our subscribers this week?
Who all's going to be winning next week? We've got Bailey Nia. We've got American Alpha versus Arthur. Those are Authors of Pain. And I mean, obviously, Joe Rhyno. You've got to assume Joe's going to win that. But yeah, Bailey Nia, Alpha, Authors of Pain. I think really the big question, the big up in the air thing there is Alpha versus the Authors of Pain. That's a question mark right there, I think.
I agree. I'm leaning towards AOP for the
I
win.
am as well, but you never know. I mean, they might have just been using them to make Alpha look strong for when they go back after the revival.
Right. I mean, we'll see. Guys, you already know all the stuff to check out because of the amazing background that my cohort and commentary here made. And just so you guys know, next 2 days, Thursday and Friday, are going to be stacked. Because Thursday, we got our live reactions to the inaugural episode of the Cruiserweight Classic. I've been hearing rave reviews about it on Twitter and Facebook. I don't know about you, partner, but I'm excited for it, given the reviews that have been coming in. But then Friday, it's going to be epic. I'm actually prepared. I've been sitting on my list. I know Ashton here as well. It's going to be our mock draft. And then we're going to do a more serious draft and a kind of a breakdown and discussion. It's everything draft on Friday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on Friday, you're going to hear 3 different possible scenarios with the draft. You're going to hear my personal fantasy draft where I took the entire WWE roster and split it into two. You're going to hear John's personal fantasy draft where he did the same thing. And then you're going to hear a combined mock draft where I'm going to play the Raw general manager, John's going to play the SmackDown general manager, and we're going to take our picks at the roster itself.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. You might as well call it Fantasy Friday TWitWoW style, people.
Oh, snap. You know what? That'll be our first ever edition of Fantasy Friday, but every episode after that will be football related.
Oh, yes. Go Falcons. So, with that said, guys, we will see you there. It's going to be amazing content coming at you in your subscriptions. Until then, tune in and peace out.